want a ticket straight to them pearly gates.
We've all been wondering why the developers haven't acknowledged cheating, and Dale wants to give us some insight onto what basically is happening with Bandai Namco. Hey, Dale, you there?
Yeah, I spoke to Mike Holler about it. I think he and Blackheart were trying to at Harada to try and generate a response, and I was like, they're not going to respond, and it's nothing personal. He was just like, no, I still want to try, and I was like, I'm just letting you know they're not going to respond. But I wasn't saying it as in, oh, it's because they're ignoring you just because they don't care. I was saying that I've worked on a game that has cheating and I know the protocols. Once you have a live service game that has cheating, there's like 4 to 5 steps. The first thing is once the cheating is spotted, there needs to be an internal investigation. That means that no one's allowed to make a public statement. They're like, oh, we need to conduct an in-depth investigation to verify every claim because, you posting a video to say, oh, these guys are cheating. It's like, that doesn't really tell us anything. It doesn't tell the scale or anything. And so you need to verify on the claim. We need to track down a number of cheaters and then assess how much of your systems have been compromised.
If they acknowledge cheaters without having a way to stop it, isn't that just opening the door to everyone like, hey, there's cheating going on in our game and we can't stop it?
Yes.
Like, that's basically what would happen, right?
That's what's going to destroy sentiment. So the investigation happens, you look at the scale of how much of the game is compromised. Then there's the legal and PR considerations afterwards. So you have to talk to legal and they'll discuss whether or not they're going to address cheating in an official statement. But if public sentiment is negative, and I think we'll both agree Tekken 8 sentiment right now is not rosy, PR is going to say, don't say anything publicly. There's too much risk for backlash. Then the issue of, okay, let's try and figure out the actions that we're going to do. We need to first detect cheaters. It's no point just reactively going, oh yeah, people are reporting and then we're going to fix them. That's ridiculous. So you have to work on back-end fixes and anti-cheat measures. There's this kind of a myth that there's no anti-cheat measures in Tekken 8, and there totally is. If you go into the Tekken 8 EULA, it's the last point. There's like 24 statements that you agreed to sign when you play Tekken 8, and 24 is the name of their anti-cheat device and their service. And it's actually the same, I think it's Easy Anti-Cheat. They're the same one that does the anti-cheat for Fortnite as well. It's not to say there's no anti-cheat. People are like, oh, how can Tekken 8 have no anti-cheat? That's not what's happened. It's that cheaters have found a way around it. They now need to figure out a few things. One, are they going to defer the priority to fix this and this back-end fixes to the third-party software company that they're paying, or they're going to work on it internally? The fact that they have a third-party company that's handling the anti-cheat means that their internal people are completely focused on patches and balances and updates, and they're probably hyper focused on that right now.
They're doing 1,500 balance changes, so it's like they can't just put that on hold and like, okay, Seasons 2's delayed, we gotta fix it. Like, they can't do that. They have expectations.
That's what would happen. They would have to delay Season 2. So there's that. And so there's also the issue of acknowledging it could cause more problems. Cheating has always been an issue in Tekken 7 and 8 on some level. When it got really bad was when a bunch of YouTubers said, hey, they're cheating and this is how they're cheating. They completely fed the fire. You don't want Harada to reply and be like, oh, snap, this is the thing. Okay, my guys are on it. And all 350,000 of his followers start replying in the comments, hey, thanks, Harada. You taught me how to cheat. I know exactly where to go now.
Is it also all the news articles that would spawn IGN and, all of them?
Precisely. Cheating is often what kills a lot of indie multiplayer games because they just don't have the resources to tackle it.
And they evolve faster than the developers can patch it.
My gut feeling is they're waiting for the hype to die down a little bit before responding, because the truth is the cheating scandal is only affecting a small portion of players. My gut feeling as well is there's several other reasons why they might be hesitating to suddenly ban everyone, because they want to first avoid false bans. That would be a PR disaster.
There was one instance of that happening in Tekken 7 where they banned 400 accounts, and some of those players were banned. They say they weren't cheating or whatever. It was a couple of streamers who got caught, but it was a whole ordeal where you had professional players. I believe Rankchu was saying like, hey, why am I timed out for a week? Lead content creator, he also got hit for a week. That's basically what you're saying, but it also happened for Tekken 7, and the fallout is exactly as you're describing, where people went to Twitter and was like, hey,
I think it would be worse now. I didn't know that happened. I just suspected that would be one of the reasons. So they want to avoid false bans because the PR disaster would be crazy. And then they have to get like concrete proof to justify ban. Cheating methods are hard to track. What's worse is fixing it in a way that it could easily be updated. So they're like, oh, we've got the fix, we found it. And then, 2 weeks later, the cheaters just, I don't know, get a cheat patch. And they're like, oh, cool, now, we're back. They don't really want that. That's just going to be a massive sink of time.
Yeah.
And so they are worried about the fear of backlash from the community too, but they're probably waiting on a permanent fix. There's a difference that happens between Western and Eastern cultures in game development as well. So I've only ever worked for Western studios, Western video game studios, but I've worked for Eastern publishers. So Western studios are more likely to issue immediate bans in waves, like kind of show a show of force to deter cheaters. And they might even use like a high profile ban announcement, like, yes, we're going to do a mega ban. Eastern studios on the whole will monitor cheaters for extended periods of time before taking action to try and go for systemic fixes rather than issuing mass bans right away. They're more likely to go for the legal route too. So they're much more likely to find the person issuing the cheats, go after them.
That's what my question was going to be. They advertise their cheats on social media, whether it be YouTube or Twitter, somewhere on Twitter. But then they have websites where they sell the cheats. Do you think that Bandai Namco is going after them? Like, are they preparing the lawyers to take them down? Or
that's my gut feeling, is that they're issuing legal stances against those people because there's a different culture of anti-cheat as well. In Eastern countries like China and Korea, like people have been arrested for cheat stuff. You have broken the law type thing. But what good is that if you're going to be going after someone who's based in, I don't know, a sanctioned country like Russia? It's just like, they probably just like, I don't care. You can't get me anyway. The punishment severity is only going to really matter if they're in an area where they can be arrested for, quote unquote, violating gaming laws. Yes, people can use, in-game reporting tools to like flag suspected cheaters, but the thing that's causing cheaters to get worse and worse is people making videos saying, here's how they're cheating, guys.
Yeah, that was...
That's what's...
Like when I first talked about the new method of plugging, I didn't explain how it was done. I knew how it was being done, but I was just like, yeah, this guy is plugging. He's not taking losses. But then the next day, it was an explanation. Yeah. And I was like, I guess the cat. But so how do you feel about that? There's players who are now feeling like, let's go scorched earth. This is the website. If Harada's not going to take it down, then I'm going to share the link on Twitter and get 1,000 likes.
It's stupid. There's no upside there. Basically making the assumption that Bandai Namco developers are not planning to address this. And I promise you they are, but the focus is on probably season 2 patch updates. Because this season 2 patch needs to go well.
Yes.
Like we both know, for various reasons, it just needs to go very, very, very well. If you're getting attacked on both sides, sometimes it's better to just focus on one side rather than split up your forces and then do both things poorly. They're probably testing server-side anti-cheat improvements right now. They're probably pursuing legal action against the people selling these cheats first. I just think there's going to be a massive ban wave if they can't get the cheating fundamentally perfect. Because the thing with a ban wave is you really don't want to let people know just beforehand.
How do you feel about streamers who have been banned in the past, or they just openly cheat?
But the problem you have is, say they do ban this guy. Sure, great. What's to stop him just starting a new profile? What's to stop people getting upset that they went after him and not another guy who's actually got more followers? And then now you're playing whack-a-mole. So it almost is better for you to be like, let's just wait until we have a real fix. Go away and, build the mega tank that's going to wipe everything out rather than just, rifling one person at a time.
How difficult is it to IP ban people?
There's a lot of issues with that because you don't own the service per se, and you don't have crazy amounts of money. You might not want to get caught up in the litigation. And there are some places that just don't care. Counter-Strike, they just do massive bans, huge bans. And they'll take out people who spent 10,000 on skins. People would be like, wow, you're really opening yourself up to litigation there. This is a real legal issue now. Someone has paid a crazy amount of money and you're locking them away from assets they fairly purchased.
In the user agreement, doesn't it say to put it short, you're basically renting access to the game?
But that shit doesn't really hold up. If I I say, here's my game, but you need to sign this, and the piece of paper said, yeah, by signing this game, you now owe me your firstborn child. Like, that shit's not gonna hold up in court. Like, it needs to be contested. It needs to be able to like be verified and validated. With something like Valve, they probably just don't really care because, quite frankly, Valve is scary rich. They're not Bandai Namco rich. They're probably closer to like Apple rich. This is just me completely speculating.
Yeah.
But I think there's a mega bandwave coming. Cause I just Googled, I was like, nah, you must have talked about this before, surely.
When the developers say things like this, the players usually feel like it's excuses. So that's another reason why I think they're kind of radio silent, is because they're learning from the past. You know, when here it is, it's literally the third most liked post on all of Tekken subreddit. How can a studio that have been making a fighting game for almost 30 years be so incompetent? It's honestly embarrassing. This has 6,000, almost 7,000 upvotes, and it's literally just a meme of all of their different quotes on why it's difficult to fix plugging and this and that, and in comparison to what Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat do. Yeah, this is kind of like what you're saying, is like they tried the route before of like talk about this, talk about that, but
no upside to it.
Yeah, it backfired.
It backfires.
So
it backfires. You guys will have content. Every streamer and YouTuber will have content for days that will make people who don't even play Tekken hate Harada, even if he gives her like a well-considered response. It's not the way to do it.
What is your thoughts on the difference in fighting games? So Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, players praise those games for having a much like smoother like process of banning people. You know, Mortal Kombat has the quitality.
Ultimately, Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat have just had way more people cheating and way more time to deal with it. Mortal Kombat was the #1 fighting game in the world for a long time, and Street Fighter have made many more games than Tekken have. I think it's just experience. Tekken wasn't popular after maybe Tekken 3 again until Tekken 7.
Yeah.
Like when I say popular, I mean like on this level.
Tekken 6, Tag 2, those, even though it's only 2 games, they make up about like a decade or something. Like the times there is huge. And then even with Tekken 7, the cheating situation didn't explode until like 4 years into that game's lifespan. Have you ever worked on a game that was released in arcades? Because Harada is like obsessed with that.
I think he's right to be obsessed with it because it affects so much of the long tail of the sentiment of the game. Okay, I haven't worked on a game that's been released in arcades before.
Okay.
But I have worked on games that needed crazy amount of balancing before it came out. So I worked on a Halo title. If you take a game and you've been testing it for a year and you've got all your internal game testers, you've got like the developers testing it. Day 1 of the game being released is the equivalent of the internal team game testing it for something like 300 to 400 years. Like if you just look at like pure hours, you can't replicate that kind of testing. What happens is with your testing is you want people to test it who haven't bought the game yet, or who have a high tolerance for understanding that the game is going through growing pains. So what we did on the Halo title was we would actually early access the game to Eastern Europe before we released it to Europe and North America. Reason being is they just have a much higher tolerance for a broken game. They just don't really complain like that. They're just like, yeah, we know it's broken, but you know, we're just grateful to play the game. They'll play the game, lose in a game because of a bug, report the bug, and then go right ahead and rematch the game. And they won't complain. They're just like, yeah, I understand it's a broken game, no problem. I'm just grateful to be having a good time. The way that you could deal with it back in the day was you just had no one buy the game. No one buys the game. We just put it on arcades. You just pay to play it once or twice. The bugs aren't really ruining your day like that. So you have this weird anomaly of the game gets to go get balanced and play tested at a scale that's like thousands of times more than the internal team would ever be able to pay for it. But not only are they testing the game, they're paying you to test the game. They're going to the arcade every day and paying you to test the game. So you have to think, if season 2 comes out and the game is like balanced way better, just hypothetically, let's say the game is balanced way better, more than likely what the game Tekken 8 would have looked like if there was an arcade circuit when the game came out. That's why he's yapping about it. It keeps costs way down to release things on arcade. You're balancing your game in public, and that's not what used to happen. You used to be able to privately balance your game in an arcade machine where people were just like, yeah, I get it. I know it is. In fact, the players used to feel like they were helping define the game they wanted. There is a history of fighting games having serious issues. So much so that many of the things that we talk about when we think about fighting games are actually issues that we've just embraced, you know?
Korean
Wave dashing
backdashing.
in Super Smash Bros. Yeah. But Korean backdashing is an example. Wave dashing in Super Smash Bros. Melee. The creative director said he hated that was a thing. He tried to remove it. He's like, no, this is a bug. And it was like, everyone was like, no, well, we like this, you know? Guilty Gear has like jump installs, so you can retain aerial properties when you're in grounded states. And then they just accepted, oh, actually, you know what? That's just an intentional part of high level Guilty Gear now.